Russian troops are gradually retreating from the western outskirts of Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region, according to Ukraine's operational strategic group Kortitsia. The development follows unsuccessful attempts by Russian forces to cut off a key supply route from Pavlograd in the Dnipropetrovsk region to Pokrovsk. Speaking on national television, group spokesperson Viktor Trehubov stated that the Russian military had been attempting to advance in the area since late February or early March, aiming to sever logistical lines. However, their offensive failed after Ukrainian forces regained control of the village of Kotlin, which Trehubov described as a turning point. Russian forces are now slowly withdrawing from the western outskirts toward the southern part of the city where their offensive originally began, he said. Trehubov also addressed the status of combat operations during the Easter period. He noted a temporary reduction in fighting intensity, with the number of clashes decreasing 2- to 3-fold. However, he cautioned against interpreting this as a ceasefire. If there were around 80 engagements and now there are 30, this looks more like a pause for regrouping rather than a genuine de-escalation, he said. Russian forces continue to rotate units and amass troops, particularly in the Kupiansk and Kharkiv directions. According to the Ukrainian military, Russian activity near Pokrovsk remains among the most intense on the Eastern Front, despite the tactical setbacks. Earlier, Ukrainian Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrsky reported that Ukrainian forces had liberated 16 square kilometers near Pokrovsk, including areas around Udachne, Kotlin, and Shevchenko. He noted that troops were repelling up to 30 Russian assaults daily in this direction as Moscow continues its attempts to advance toward the administrative borders of Donetsk and Luhansk regions. RBC Ukraine recently reported that Russian troops in the Pokrovsk direction are being forced to retreat because they have suffered significant losses. The Kortitsia Operational Strategic Group noted that an entire unit of motorcycles was even sent into an assault, and it was completely destroyed. Despite Russian troops' continued efforts to capture Pokrovsk, recent attempts have been marked by significant losses for the aggressor. According to Trehubov, the Russians are not succeeding in this direction, despite the significant resources they are concentrating on the assaults. Pokrovsk remains the most intense direction, and an interesting element of the situation is that, despite the fact that the Russians are making the most effort, it is here that they are having the least success, said Trehubov.
The next footage of the Ukrainian Armed Forces Main Intelligence Directorate, together with the Arten Group, preventing a large-scale offensive by the occupying Russian army in the Zaporizhia region has been released. The attack that took place a few days ago involved more than 300 soldiers of the occupying army advancing in 6 columns, 40 armored combat vehicles, 3 tanks, and about 10 buggies and quadricycles. The first 3 vehicles of the occupying army participating in the attack were disabled 8 kilometers from the position of the Ukrainian army. As a result of the battle that lasted about 3 hours, dozens of armored combat vehicles and about 140 servicemen of the Russian army were destroyed by artillery and drone strikes. As a result of the attack, positions in the area controlled by the 128th Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces were not lost. The Ukrainian Air Force struck a command post of the occupying Russian army in the southern direction of the front. After receiving information from drone operators that Russian soldiers had arrived at the command post and entered the building, the MiG-29 fighter jet delivered precise strike. The strike, which was carried out with the French-made high-precision AASM Hammer aerial bomb, destroyed the position and the invaders there. It should be noted that recently, Ukrainian fighters have increased their attacks on the positions of the occupying Russian army, both on Russian territory and in the occupied territories of Ukraine, using mainly Western-made bombs.